Hi, my name is AHarris. This is my presentation on ethical leadership for California Baptist University, KIN 505. As I'm speaking today on ethical leadership, I'm going to be focusing on the profession of teaching. As we speak about teaching, teaching can be broad. There's so many areas that we can be teaching, whether that's in a career that's called a teacher, or whether that's teaching a child, or teaching a family member, or teaching a friend a passion of yours. When you're teaching, it's so important to teach with passion, to teach to be making a difference, to be influencing lives. And that's how I will be looking at the leadership today, in the lens of passion, making a difference, and influence, as God has called us to teach those who are in our care. As we move to different leadership styles, there are a lot of different leadership styles. I'm going to speak about three, and we'll be zooming in on one of them tonight. The first one that I'm going to talk about is servant leadership. Servant leadership is the style of leadership in which you put others before yourselves. This is the one that I'll be focusing on today, the one that I try to employ in all that I'm doing. This will be the one that I think and believe that Jesus exemplified. The second type of leadership style is transformational leadership. And Hobbes did a study, and in this study in 2018, he concluded that those coaches who were under an athletic director who employed transformational leadership showed the best results and felt most supported by their athletic directors. This could look like something as simple as helping them clean up after practice. But this transformational leadership, this relational leadership, made a difference in those coaches' lives. I think it's important to note here that servant leadership and transformational leadership have a lot in common, and they have a lot of overlap. So as you're employing one, you're probably using concepts that go together from the other style of leadership. And so both of those are really important and inform a lot of my leadership styles and teaching. The third type of leadership style that I'm going to mention today is transactional leadership. And Borland, Kane, and Burton from our textbook speak about transactional leadership in a give and take, in a reward-based style of leadership. And this might be looked at as an old-fashioned style of leadership in which I'm the one in charge, it's my way or the highway, and things can get done that way, but it's a different approach that I'm not going to focus on tonight. We can look at some overall struggles in leadership styles, and the first one that we're going to discuss is authority in leadership. Where does the leader gain their authority? We can look and see from the top of servant leadership, you strive to gain that authority over your followers through your relationship, through your servanthood. And we can look all the way down to transactional leadership, where they are receiving their authority through their position, through what has been given them. It is, you are in charge, and that is my authority, and that's how it's gained there. We can also see struggles through grading, particularly as a teacher. There are grading ethical decisions that need to be made, and also with relationships with the students and relationships with the parents. That doesn't apply quite as much with the parents the older the child gets, yet it's still definitely a concerning issue. So when we look at servant leadership, when we zoom in on what is servant leadership, we can see the prime example in Jesus. This is a picture of Jesus washing his disciples' feet, who gave himself. He was the prime leader, yet he gave himself, gave of his rights, and gave of his authority, and instead served those who were below him. We can see that Fitzgerald talked about servant leadership being defined as this journeyer named Leo who went out and was the ultimate servant leader. And in that story, he describes 10 traits of what a servant leader does. And some of those were listening and empathy, foresight, stewardship. And there was more that he mentioned as well. But when it comes down to it, servant leadership is the style of leadership in which the leader takes second place. They go below, they serve, and they are working towards the betterment of those who are following them. So what are these strategies of servant leadership? How can we make these work within the scope of servant leadership? Our first strategy is interpersonal acceptance. what is interpersonal acceptance? We can say that that is showing empathy, showing compassion, showing forgiveness. We can all think of those leaders in our lives who have done this, who have been a servant leadership to us at different times. And they've empathized with our concerns, empathized with the things that we might be going through, and then gave us compassion or forgave us when we were doing something that we shouldn't have, when we made the wrong choice. Why does this work? Why does interpersonal acceptance work as a strategy of servant leadership? It works. Noland and Richards showed in their study that students learn better in servant leadership environments. The student engagement was higher. They are invested in that relationship with their leader. And there was more learning that happened in that. If I believe in you, if I trust in you, if I can trust you, then I can learn from you. This has shifted a little bit in society, but this is definitely, there has to be interpersonal acceptance. And I see that every day in my classroom. If I don't have a good relationship with that student, then they're not going to learn from me near as well. And that is what Noland and Richards showed in their study. But how can this be accomplished? Truly, it comes right from the heart of true concern for the followers. It has to be that you care about what they're doing, and they know that you're caring about what they're doing. And Robinson, Newbert, and Miller showed this, just that it's true concern. It has to come from your heart. It can't be something that you fake, but you have to have true concern. And the awesome thing is that God can help us with that and help us develop that true concern for our followers. The second strategy that can be used in this is humility. It's such a great strategy of servant leadership, and really one of the pillars of what servant leadership is. So what does humility look like in this? It's putting others first, supporting them, and helping their performance. Borland, Kane, and Burton in our textbook highlight this. They show that it's not about the leader saying, look at what I did, look at what I led. It's all about their followers, and look at what they performed. Look at what this team accomplished. Look at what this classroom came through and learned. And that really is the humility. It's not about the leader. It's about others. And why is this important? Well, it dispels fear of abuse of power. We can see this in our everyday life. Those in leadership are often looked upon with fear of, can I trust that they're handling this power well, or are they going to abuse that power? And true humility will diffuse that and will dispel that fear. And how can this be accomplished? This can be accomplished daily through words and actions. It has to be a consistent thing. It's harder to build up that trust through humility, and a lot easier to break it down. So it has to be daily, built up slowly, little bit by bit. So we can come to a first ethical issue of grading. So why is this an issue? How is this an issue? Late assignments, students who turn in things after it was due, but they have an emergency. Or maybe one student is really struggling with something. We can see this in a true example that happened recently. Farbarov wrote about this story. You might have heard about it, where the teacher was fired because she did not want to give a student 50% on an assignment that they did not turn in. And this is difficult because her authorities were asking her to give a 50%, but she felt like if they didn't do any of the work, they don't deserve it. And we can see this as an example in late assignments. If a student turns in an assignment late, but they were sick the week, but they got the assignment earlier, how do we handle that? And I think servant leadership informs this. It informs us with interpersonal acceptance. What is best for the student? Did they truly need, or were they truly so sick that they could not do this? And we need to offer that forgiveness, show that humility, and allow them to get that grade? Or were they were they really just fooling around, didn't get it done, and now want to use this as an excuse? So what's best for them? What are they going to learn from best in this situation? Are they going to be defeated, or are they going to learn that, hey, I need to put my hand to this, and I need to work hard and push through this, and I learn a lesson later on? And I think that's how you're going to really make the final decision, is what's happening and what is best for the student. We can see another ethical issue in relationships. Many ethical issues that teachers face rise from parent-teacher-student relationships, and this could be seen in a study done by Husu in 2001. He showed that so many of these teachers said man, these ethical issues that I'm facing are from like my relationships with the parents or my relationship with the student. And I think that that comes so clearly. I can think of students um, that you have to work through that. You have to work through that relationship. And how do I handle this situation when they don't like me as much, or how do I handle that? And I think you handle that with humility and authenticity. We can see this in the Leadership Mindset series, talks about servant leadership being about being humble and being authentic, being who you are, not faking it, but making sure that that inner part of you is true and is nice and is softened, and leading that with humility. Lastly, how would we recommend this? We'd emulate Jesus as servant of all. He was the ultimate servant leader. And we seek to treat all people as God's creation. If we look at everyone through his lens, what we can gain is so great. And I think James 3:1 is important. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. Just to remember that we are in charge of people who look to us as a leader, and what are we doing? How are we handling that? And how can we be the best leader that we can through Jesus's eyes and use him as an example? And here are my references.